4. Can your organization adapt? An ecosystem's member must be able to quickly adapt because the needs of the final customer, along with the desire and ability of complementors to collaborate, can shift dramatically. Take Nike's Full Band, an early fitness tracker that connected with other Nike products. After the arrival of Fitbit and other competing products, Nike discontinued production. The market could easily serve the need it had met, diminishing the value add of tracker tied to its own brand. The company also failed to defend its software and became a third-party app, salvaging what it could through a deal to co-develop a version of the Apple Watch. Like many other traditional vertically integrated firms, Nike was slow to recognize the inevitable and thus it lost its chance to orchestrate the wearables ecosystems. Apple's success with the iPhone, in contrast, was fueled by the company's recognition. In 2008, Daddy's original strategy of providing all the phone's apps was wrong. Steve Jobs, who was initially opposite to non-Apple app providers, made an impressive U-turn, creating the iPhone App Store. This both allowed the firm to share revenue from apps sold and encourage others to find ways to leverage the phone. Participating in an ecosystem requires an outward-facing culture and the ability to manage relationship with a host of complementors. Those skills don't come easily to established players, which tend to default to one of two approaches: to create a vertically integrated, tightly controlled network as Nokia did, or to hop on the bandwagon of open innovation and production, providing only a platform and leaving ecosystem management up to users. The risk there is that without some central impetus or incentive from the host, other parties may fail to engage. That happened with Watson IBM's IE developer platform. Initial developers' enthusiasm did not translate into activity and engagement. There really aren't any default strategies for building an ecosystem. You need to decide carefully where and how to open up and then do so in a way that fits your competitive environment. Nest got this right, concerned that by opening up the alarm functions it would compromise its ability to control the home. It made a strategy decision to engage in alarm and monitoring itself rather than link up with Alarm.com or Honeywell. It invited complementors in other non-strategic areas instead. For its part, when Alarm.com entered the thermostat maker, it chose to enable Nest connectivity. Having a smaller installed base and less muscle than Google, it places a premium on the ability to infiltrate more houses more effectively, even if that reduces its aspiration for control. Moving beyond strategy to build an ecosystem, you will need to manage your organization. The old part of it that which currently generates revenue will want to keep innovation under the firm's control and will treat complementary with suspicion, whereas the new part will need to be externally focused. Big firms often separate the two parts, regarding the core as emerging, preserving inertial super tender and hoping that a small fleet of speedboats, some of which manage ecosystems, will pull the firm forward. Banks and insurance companies, for instance, often try to preserve their legacy structures and IT systems, hoping that a few add-ons will bring them into the digital ecosystems enabled age. But to succeed, ecosystems must be more closely aligned with the core. New organizational structures are emerging that are better suited than traditional ones to this challenge. One example is the Chinese manufacturer Haier's Rendaheji model. Hire is organized around independently managed micro enterprises that it may or may not own. IT facilitates information and data flows across the micro enterprise units, each of which becomes, in a sense, an internal ecosystem with relatively porous boundaries, enabling the firms as a whole to position itself in a broader ecosystem. 5. How many ecosystems should you manage? Some successful orchestrators manage a number of synergistic ecosystems, each covering a different part of the business and leading to a different part of for expansion. The Chinese tech giant Alibaba grew by creating an expanding set of connected ecosystems, starting in one market and shifting to others as it capitalized on customer information and refined its understanding of customer needs. It began with 1688.com, a wholesale marketplace, created Taoba, a C2C marketplace, moved into Tmall, a third-party seller, and expanded to Yuhusuan, a sales and marketing platform. And it is a part of Ant Financial, the world's most valuable fintech firm, which aims to expand its ecosystem by penetrating more consumption scenarios in daily life. The most obvious consequence of his dynamic is the growing dominance of national e-commerces and e-services by a small number of firms. In China, the almost equally huge Tencent and Baidu compete with Alibaba, which in many ways they resemble. Their Western equivalents are Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft, aspiring to provide a unified service. These companies are shifting into ever more sectors, often through interfaces such as voice-activated assistants that appear seamless to the consumer. Mobility firms are doing similar things. Uber expansion thing of Uber Eats and all the adventures of Uber Everything demonstrates that the company's ambition to integrate multiple ecosystems and manage the customer interface. Southeast Asian mobility firms such as Grab, Singapore, and Gojek, Indonesia, have gotten into payments as well, aiming to make themselves indispensable to the final customer. As Marco Ianciti and Karim Lakhani recently noted, such hub firms are becoming formidable strategic bottlenecks that can direct the lion's share of value to themselves, but also it may seem that the future belongs to big, established firms with deep pockets and technological prowess. Smaller upstarts like Alibaba when it started less than 20 years ago, and non-technology firms have the potential to masculine. The Chinese insurance and financial services conglomerate Pinang began by becoming more technologically savvy and soon ventured into adjacent areas, starting with healthcare and extending to lifestyle, in the process becoming the world's most valuable insurance group. It did so by creating focused ecosystems such as Pink and Good Doctor, which combines artificial intelligence with physicians to provide medical advice, and Pink and Haofang, the country's largest online property platform. It has invested in Autohome, China's largest used car marketplace, and in entertainment through an alliance with Huaji Brothers. It then combined those vertically with some of its own units, including Ping and Bank and Xiong and Insurance, to create the Ping One account, an offering that seeks to capture every customer interaction. When building an ecosystem, you must decide carefully where and how to open up. For complementors, different ecosystem represents different pathways to market, and most integrators are complementors in rivals ecosystems. You'll find Microsoft Word in Android, Google Maps in Apple software in Microsoft systems, and so on. Firms choose the multi-home according to what specific ecosystems allow, the cost of redeploying in other ecosystems, and the benefits of cross-ecosystem customer reach. A firm's role in one ecosystem may drive its participation in orchestration of another, and there is plenty of room for strategy. Samsung, the biggest user of Android ecosystem, it sells more than 40% of Android phones, threatened to create a rival OS ecosystem if Google didn't make certain concessions. The companies reached a compromise, but they continue to compete over functions such as digital assistants, and the boundaries between Google and Samsung phones ecosystems continue to be hotly contested. A strategic interaction of his kind between firms and their associated ecosystems will only increase. From private benefit to public good. The rise of ecosystem-based competition not only requires a new strategic framework and organizational model, it has significant implications for policy and regulation. In particular, the increasing success of integrators and their ability to become all-powerful orchestrators across an ever-growing number of ecosystems raises serious questions about a new form of market power. Governments must strike a balance that both keeps their business environments healthy and safeguards their societies. Little global consensus has emerged about where that balance should lie. The rapid growth of many Chinese firms have relied on their unfettered ability to access data, while Europe sets strict restrictions of that activity. Will this limit economic growth in Europe relative to China? Maybe, but Europeans may consider that the price worth paying, given the social benefits of privacy protections. Whatever social properties they set, all countries will need to change the analytical foundation of on competition law, which has long focused on managing the market shares of individual firms. As a recent report prepared from the UK Treasury argued, we need to adjust our approach to competition and regulation. In particular, we need to examine the terms of engagement in ecosystems, how orchestrators and integrators exert their power, what customer data those parties own, and how they interact with complementors. And while there is one Apple, there are 2 million app developers. The fate of complementors may have more far-reaching societal effects that the high-profile fortunes for an orchestrator will have. And as we contemplate regulatory action, we must consider ecosystem governance, rules of engagement, and the well-being of the myriad, de facto weaker complementors. We must also ask whether firms desire to expand their reach and control an increasingly broad swath of activity restricts competition. To that end, the M&E of ecosystems place should be scrutinized. In approaching this challenge, policymakers should avoid the trap of treating all emergency ecosystems as commercial monsters in need of control. Ecosystems can provide new ways of bringing private benefit and public goods. IDEO's CoLab circular economy portfolio advises firms in the textile and food sectors on reconfiguring their ecosystems to encourage the reuse of resources and the reduction of waste. Tripes, my local token, provides localized digital currencies for UAs. Downtowns that reinforce connection between residents and tourists on one hand and local business on the other. Velocia is creating a rewards ecosystem that encourages the use of public transit alongside on-demand services such as carpooling and car sharing to improve people's commutes. Disclosure: I have advised all three of these companies. Conclusion: business is undergoing a paradigm shift as a result of digital innovation. The very nature of competition is changing. Competing is increasingly about identifying new ways to collaborate and connect rather than simply offering alternative value propositions. But as the scope of opportunity expands, so too does the confusion of executives confronted with digital ecosystems. The complexity of those systems doesn't mean we should give up trying to make sense of them. It means we need to adjust. We must shift from rigid strategies based on prescriptive frameworks to dynamic experience based on a process of inquiry. Start by asking yourself the 5 questions I've just proposed. Y esto ha sido todo. Entonces, en conclusión, como dice aquí en el texto, pues en resumen, de lo que trata el artículo In the Ecosystem Economy, What's Your Strategy? Es que la competencia por los negocios ha cambiado. O sea, actualmente ya no se trata simplemente de ofrecerle algo más al cliente, ni de ofrecer algo diferente, sino también de que hay diferentes estrategias para meterse en estas economías, en estos ecosistemas económicos. Ahora no simplemente es ofrecer algo distinto, sino también tratar de colaborar con alguien. Si yo puedo ofrecer un producto que puede ser mejorado o utilizado de diferentes formas por otro, por un tercero que me puede dar mayor valor y a la vez hacerme vender más, pues es una buena idea hacerlo. No siempre tenemos que estar tan cerrados como se ha hecho eh, tradicionalmente por miedo a que nuestros secretos se vayan a la competencia. A veces es mejor compartir para crecer que cerrarse todo para sí mismo. Muchas gracias por la atención.